do. And on the lines with us, we never do this, but, you know, when you're dealing with the likes of Senator John McCAIN, ladies and gentlemen, you right here at the beginning of the show from the, as they say, the belly of the beast in Washington, D.C., Arizona senior senators on the air with us this morning. John, always great to have you. You're right in the middle of the storm cloud here with the immigration thing now, you know.
Right. And thanks for having me on, Barry and Michelle. It's good to be with you.
Well, it's great. It's great to have you here today. Listen, let me just hit the deck running, and I want to ask you a question. The big news back here at home, and you'll be back here in a few days. The big news is that the bill here in the Arizona legislature that was introduced by Russell Pierce, and everybody says it's the strongest immigration bill that's any of the states, or illegal alien bill, or whatever you want to call it, the strongest one that any of the states have really ever dealt with, and we're waiting to see if the governor is going to sign it. And I know yesterday you and Senator John Kyle came out in favor of immediate deployment of 3,000 National Guard troops down on the border. Do you support this bill along with these 3,000 troops, or where are you landing on it right now?
Well, where John Kyle and I are and have been for over a year. Over a year ago, John Kyle and I called for the deployment of 3,000 additional Guard troops because we knew and have seen the violence on the border. As you may recall, we had escalating. We had a hearing there in Phoenix a year ago today, and we're going to have a hearing on the Homeland Security Committee here in less than an hour, where we're going to have witnesses from the administration, but we're also going to have the mayor of Nogales and Sheriff Larry Deaver, who you know is the sheriff of Cochise County, where this Tucson sector is having such a dramatic impact. Let me just throw two numbers at you. One is that last year, 1.3 million pounds of marijuana were intercepted in the Tucson sector, okay? Not across the border, in the Tucson sector. Last year, 241,733 illegals were apprehended in the Tucson sector. So you know about Rob Krentz. You know about the 3 Americans that were murdered in Juarez. You know about the violence escalating. And Larry Deaver will tell you that the violence issue is dramatically increased. It used to be when they surprised a drug dealer, they dropped the drugs and ran. Now they fight. They have automatic weapons. They will try to disrupt traffic on the freeway. They will. It is very serious stuff. It's escalated, and we anticipated this when we asked for and demanded 3,000 additional troops on the border. So,
what extent do these guys have, the bad guys now? What extent do they have the Mexican military working for them?
Well, there's corruption in the police, and there is corruption everywhere, and one of their problems is that ex-military guys are hired by these drug cartels. The only institution that there is at least mostly free from corruption is the Mexican military. That's why whenever there's trouble in one of these towns on the border, the president of Mexico, who I praise highly, Calderon, has to send the military because the police are riddled with corruption. But the intimidation by these drug cartels is incredible. They cut off people's heads. They kill young people at a party. They are. Look, it has changed from an issue of people coming across our border to find a job because they couldn't get a job where they are. That part is, at least we can understand that human motivation. Now we're talking about coyotes. We're talking about drug cartels. We're talking about organized crime. We're talking about threats to the security of the United States and an existential threat to the very government of Mexico. So we have to secure our borders, and we have to do it by getting the National Guard down there, by increasing the Border Patrol by 3,000, by finishing the fence at 2 and 3 layer as necessary in urban areas.
Well, Janet Napolitano says that she doesn't want this, especially the virtual fence down there.
We're going to fight. We're going to have amendments. We're going to force attention. Again, by the way, the administration proposal is a reduction in Border Patrol, a reduction for next year in Border Patrol. So, look, our border is broken. Our citizens are not secure. We've been anticipating this for a long time. I was down in Mexico well over a year ago meeting with the president of Mexico, who told me himself that the drug cartels were an existential threat, and he could not control the border on his side. So I've been at this a long time, but it is now it's coming to a head, and it is escalating. And we can, by the way, secure the border. Things have gotten better in San Diego since they built the triple fence, and crime has gone down. Things have gone better in the Yuma sector of our border, not in the Tucson sector. And we have proven in Iraq that surveillance plus barriers that you can succeed in securing areas, and I believe we can do that. UAVs, which, by the way, are not flying 24 hours a day now and have to be.
All right, let me do this. I want to read it.
Could I just summarize saying,
yeah.
So I understand the frustration and the anger of the Arizona legislature
right.
and the governor of Arizona because the federal government has not done its job.
Okay,
it's
now
the federal government's responsibility to secure the borders, not the state.
Let me read. This is from this morning. This is the Arizona Republic this morning. Front page story. They're talking about you and John Kyle and the renewed call. This is their quote. I want you to comment on it. The renewed call for Guard troops is part of a 10-point border security plan. Okay. And it says the senators also voiced support for a bill approved by state lawmakers Monday that's considered the toughest effort in the nation to crack down on illegal immigrants. Are you supporting the bill that Arizona's legislatures passed?
Obviously, I have not seen the details of the bill. It was just passed, and I don't know if the governor signed it or not. Did she sign it yet?
No, not yet. We're waiting.
But all signs are that she are. I have not seen all the details of the bill, but I certainly support the thrust of the bill and the effort of the bill because we have an obligation to secure the lives and property of our citizens. So, but have I seen all the provisions of it? Not yet. I understand it underwent changes as short a time ago as yesterday. But do I understand their frustration and appreciate it? Absolutely. And I understand their actions, and the thrust of it is clearly in keeping with the obligation that we have to our citizens.
All right, I'm just going to hold on just a second, John, and then we're going to continue here on the program. We have Senator John McCAIN, who's on the lines with us in Washington, 716, and it's KFYI, and it's the nearly famous Barry Young Show.
The nearly famous Barry Young Show, 550 KFYI, KFYI.com.
It's Mike Broomhead. We're going to find out who parties more, Tiger Woods or Arizona State University. Playboy will tell you what they think. That's at 4 o'clock on the Mike Broomhead Show. NewsTalk 550, KFYI.
Yeah, the really famous Barry Young Show, and on the lines with us from Washington, D.C., starting off the show today is Senator John McCain, who is, and we're talking about this illegal immigration thing, which look, John, I got to ask you about this. I hear all these rumors, but it appears the White House is at any moment going to roll in their version of immigration reform, and all of us are sort of belted in for the rough ride ahead. What are you predicting for this?
Well, it's interesting. The president will not be coming forward with a proposal. Senator Schumer of New York, a well-known expert on the border, and a Democrat congressman. They have no Republican co-sponsors. I believe we can convince our Republican colleagues, at least, that we have to get the border secured first and that things are worsening and the violence is escalating. And there's no point in having other aspects of immigration reform until you get the border secured. I mean, over the last 2 or 3 years, this has gone from a low-level conflict to a full-scale conflict. And so I don't really see it going anywhere. It is in response to the Hispanic caucus who threatened to hold out their votes on the health care reform bill unless there was some kind of commitment. But I see it. John Kyle and I will fight against it until we get the border secured.
Look, what the border secure and the high-tech fence that we were experimenting with down there?
It's a total failure.
Well,
that's
my
a hearing
question
on that, and it has been a complete failure.
Is it really?
Disaster and waste of billions.
So what is then the answer?
The answer is to do what the Marines have done around Marine Corps Air Station Yuma and the Goldwater area, Goldwater ranges, and that is there is low tech, not so sophisticated surveillance equipment get the UAVs in the air. They are not in the air 24 hours a day. They're only flying during daylight hours. Use existing surveillance equipment, get it in place, and also get our border beefed up. The border patrol, the National Guard presence has an effect on these drug dealers. One thing the drug dealers fear is the military. So seeing military in uniform on the border is a tremendous deterrent, much less, and in addition to be a much-needed manpower requirement in the short term. And by the way, the federal government should pay for it, not the state of Arizona, which is broke because it's a federal responsibility.
In Texas, they've been experimenting with this program.
Yes.
In a few counties.
And on our border also they have.
And they arrest the illegal aliens, and the thought is, okay, we put them in jail, not just because we're ticked off at them for being illegal. Yep. We put them in jail to detain them for 3, 6, 9 months, whatever, because
Operation Streamline.
They can't make
any. Has been working.
They don't make money to send back home, so this hurts the whole illegal alien movement. So your thoughts?
It has been in effect in the Yuma sector, and it has been very effective. It has been effective in other areas. One of the problems is that there hasn't been sufficient funding to house these illegals, and we found that if they're kept in prison between 15 and 60 days, repeated offenders, then that dramatically reduces the inflow. Let me also mention to you, Sheriff Babot and Sheriff Larry Deaver will tell you that 17% of the illegals that they are apprehending now have committed crimes in the United States of America previously.
What is that, 70?
17%.
17%.
What Sheriff Larry Deaver and Sheriff Paul Babou have told me as the 17% of those who are apprehended have committed previous crimes in the United States.
Who will pay?
This is not a job-seeking issue anymore.
Right.
You see what I mean?
So who will?
A criminal syndicate run by cartels who engage in human trafficking and drug trafficking. And by the way, they're using ultralights now across the border to bring drugs in.
You know, the Cardinal Mahoney over in Los Angeles denounced this whole thing, the Arizona bill. Yes, they said it was mean-spirited and that sort of thing, and he said that the only reason these people are coming over here is for jobs. You take issue with at least that part. I mean, you think there's more to it than that?
I think some are coming for jobs. Some are the innocent prey of these coyotes. Mm-hmm. Our hearts go out to them. They're kept in these drop houses. But the point is, if the border were secured, they couldn't get across, so therefore they wouldn't be hiring these coyotes. But also, more and more, the drug cartels and the human traffickers are working together. Look at what methamphetamine does to our citizens. Look at the 1.3 million pounds of marijuana just intercepted on the Tucson border alone. All of this has been building and building and building. Look, in Tijuana, they cut off people's heads and hang their bodies from the overpass. This is a conflict that we are in. I won't say, full-scale war, anything like that, but we are in a conflict, and we are in a conflict for the fundamental requirement of any government, and that is to have its borders secure.
So the message back to the president and back to Janet Napolitano: close the border first, and we'll talk about everything else later.
Exactly. And again, there are areas where we have succeeded along the border. There's lessons we've learned from and surveillance capabilities. Look, you can't just build a fence. People poke holes in it. People dig under it, climb over it. But if you got some fences, and in urban areas that means 2- and 3-tiered fences, then surveillance, you can secure the border. And anybody who calls and says you can't secure the border, I'll be glad to give them the information to show you how we can and how they have in certain areas.
All right, John, it's always a pleasure to have you on the air with us. Go fight the battle, and we'll see you when you come back.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Senator John McCain.